Hey guys, and welcome back to Off the Cuff. And today I'm going to be whining about the refugee situation and something that I saw in the paper yesterday. In the paper, man, I sound like my granddad. Where they're saying that we're going to be building new houses, nice new houses for the refugees. And I feel like I need to have a rant about it because it's driving me insane. So this was the article that I saw. Afghan refugees in UK may need new homes built for them due to lack of large properties. The councils are preparing to rent private homes and buy or even build additional properties due to a shortage of large houses needed to accommodate Afghan refugees, the Telegraph can reveal. Whitehall and local council sources said the average size of families arriving in Britain under the country's resettlement programme was nearly 7, often young children. A family that arrived last week had up to 12 members. To relocate them appropriately, we have to find a relatively large number of 3, 4 or even 5 bedroom homes, and these homes are rare for councils or even in the private rental sector. So yeah, I just feel like, what? As far as I am aware, at least this is how it always was, refugees are people that need refuge from somewhere. It's not about moving them halfway around the world or anything like that. It's supposed to keep them safe, as near to their home as possible, and then when it's safe to return, then they can go home. And we supposedly only had, on average, 205 troops. I think it was like between 90 and 605 troops over the last 6 or 7 years in Afghanistan. If we only had that many troops, then I think I talked about this in the last one briefly. We can't have that many interpreters. We're supposedly doing this for interpreters, but we'll also take some other refugees if needed. But they didn't say that initially. They just said people that have helped out. And if you have more people helping you than you have there as troops, to me, that doesn't make sense. Even if you add their families, let's say they all have a 10-person family, that's still not 20,000 people. I don't know, man. There are refugee camps. There are places where you can get refuge all around Afghanistan. And I don't understand why people wouldn't want to stay there. Or, a lot of people say, oh, it was awful, leaving the comforts of home. But then they're still here 20 years later. I listened to someone last night that said, yeah, we came over in 2002 and, I still really miss it. Well, why didn't you go back to somewhere similar then? But yeah, I just think, what are we doing? If we can't house our own people, we have these laws like boys and girls can't be in the same bedroom. So brother and sister can't share a bedroom, even if it's a big bedroom. And we're struggling to build houses for our own people. We're a tiny island. I don't think a lot of people understand the size of the UK, let alone the size of England, which is where most people end up. We're not a big island. It's England top to bottom is about a 5-hour drive, and the UK is probably a 12-hour drive, 13-hour drive. We're one of the highest population density countries in the world. And we are the highest or the second highest in Europe. In fact, check this out. So you can see here, if you look at the list of the world's top countries in terms of population density, a lot of the ones at the top are city-states: Monaco, Macau, Singapore, Hong Kong, Bahrain. And then you have larger countries, South Korea. The Netherlands is minuscule, but I guess you could count that as a larger country. Rwanda, the Lebanon, and then India. But if you have a look at Europe, you can see here that essentially it's England and the Netherlands. So, yeah. European countries by population density with the numbers, population density per kilometre squared. So, city-state, tiny island, city-state. So the first country is the Netherlands. 521 people per square kilometre. 521 people per square kilometre. That's crazy. Anyway, so 521 for the Netherlands. Turkey, the European part of Turkey, 473. Belgium, which is minuscule. It's just a tiny country. And then we have the UK. If that was just England, we would be at the top of the of the actual proper countries, if you want to put it like that. So yeah, it's not like we have oodles of space and we've got to fill this space and You know, like some countries, they actually offer money and incentives for people to come over and kind of fill up their country and help make the country more usable and used. You know, we'll give you X amount of farmland and we'll pay you €7,000 a year if you go to a certain part of Italy, for example. I know that's a real example. Or Switzerland, there is another example there. We are pretty crowded, and if we can't do it for ourselves, how can we suddenly do it for other people? You know, we're suddenly going to build people massive houses because what, we couldn't do it before, but for these people we suddenly can. I just don't understand what is going on. You know, during World War II, England had its own refugee situation. We were being bombed heavily by the Germans, and we were repeatedly firebombed by the Germans before we had ever firebombed anyone. And so we had many children, I think 1.5 million children that needed to leave for safer pastures as such. But we didn't send them to, you know, I don't know, Guam or somewhere. We didn't send them to Brazil. You know, we pushed them out into the more safer parts of the country. And I'm not saying that that's possible in these situations. I know that in Afghanistan, if you have worked for the enemy, you know, the NATO, that might never be safe again. It might never be safe again, but you don't know that. And obviously going further out might help you, and it might not. But I don't get this whole thing about focusing on very specific countries. You know, brothers and sisters were split up all the time in World War II. They tried to keep them together, but obviously it's not always possible. And I feel like if that's the case here, why would we be building several 300, 400,000 pound houses to deal with a situation that, in theory, should only be for a couple of years? And I've heard from one or two people that we're doing this, we're doing them a solid because they were our interpreters for a couple of years. No. If we can't do this for our own troops, if we can't provide basic housing for our own troops, that's not an excuse then to me. It's just not. As far as I'm aware, refugee status, you know, refugees are supposed to be a few years, until it's safe to go back. So this is the Cambridge Dictionary. It's probably one of the 5 biggest English dictionaries in the world. And it used to say, refugee, a person who has escaped from their own country for political or religious reasons or because of war. Now it says, a person who has escaped from their own country for political, religious or economic reasons or because of a war. So, doesn't that just mean that anybody that wants to go to another country, rather than trying to make their own country better, they'll just claim refugee status? So in theory, anybody could go to America now. Anybody that is in a country below there can just say, see, it's not very economically prosperous in my country at the moment, so I'm going to have to claim refugee status. I don't know. You tell me. Maybe I'm just being black-pilled. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel kind of frustrated. I think that we don't treat our own people particularly well, and then when we have a moment to virtue signal, and this is absolutely what it is. I've watched Priti Patel go on various shows and whatnot over the last few days, telling people that we should be taking more people in, which for anybody that knows British politics would understand how hilarious that is, because she's been on the cusp of losing her job for about 18 months because she can't keep people out. So yeah, there's a sort of twisted irony to this whole thing that shouldn't be funny, but I guess dark humor. But yeah, I don't know, tell me what you think. I feel like if you can't provide housing properly for your own troops, you shouldn't be saying, well, if these people happen to have families of 15, we'll just build them a few £1 million, because I don't know how much does it cost to build a house in Whitehall or St John's Wood, that could house 12 people legally, because like I say, if you're all these silly rules we now have because of massive government, like you cannot house a brother and sister in the same bedroom. Like, how expensive is it going to be to build houses in London to house a family of 15 people, or even let's say 8 or 9 people? It's going to be expensive. I just think this is another one of those moments where you're like, what is going on? Like, there has to be a more efficient way of protecting people from difficult situations in the short term that doesn't involve, you know, creating an entire personhood and peoplehood for them in another country that's 25 countries away from where they started at taxpayers' expense and whatever else. But yeah, let me know. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. I saw a lady on trigonometry last night, and I saw that had quite a split decision, and I might talk about that later. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Winston stopped writing, partly because he was suffering from cramp. He did not know what had made him pour out this stream of rubbish